Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to this meetup without much of a meetup. But we have the five of us, and we have one brave soul here joining us live. The plan today is to share with you an idea that comes a little bit from the past with a new twist to it. And the idea is that you consider forming your own support groups in the effort to support one another through acute colds, flus, and viruses using Gemmos. Recently, I released a book that I created with exactly that in mind, that you could use the book as a guide. And if each of the folks in your group had the book, you'd have a similar reference to guide each other. What I know from my personal experience is there's a certain point you get in your cold, flu, or virus that you are worn down enough that making those choices can be burdensome. And having someone else's eyes looking at you and making suggestions is a great relief. What we're suggesting here today is some ways for you to form up a group. And today, groups can be made online for sure. But truth be told, when I wrote my book, I had the picture that you might be able to form those groups with neighbors, with parents at your child's school, colleagues at work, a number of different scenarios in person. It's my belief we are moving more into a time where community and in-person contact is going to become all the more valuable and important for us. However, I wouldn't want that to limit you if you're unable to form a group that isn't nearby geographically. We've got some other options we can suggest to you. I just want to share my screen for a moment here and explain when I was thinking about how you might work together as a group. We have a handout that is pulled from information in the book. And when we're going through a cold, flu, or virus, we move through it in stages. We have this first stage where we have a lowered mood and energy and appetite. We have a second stage where those symptoms like coughing and sneezing or a fever might appear. Then some of us, if we can't nip it in the bud by stage 2, go into this stage 3 where the inflammation increases and it goes deeper, maybe into the lungs, or we experience a secondary infection. This is particularly the time that I know having another set of eyes on us is super important. It's the time we're worn down, we've lost our resilience, and it's a little hard to gain perspective. And then we have this fourth stage where we're restoring resilience. And in each of these stages, there are particular extracts that are useful. There are common symptoms that show up. And by each person in the group following this similar roadmap, you'll be able to support one another and with confidence. And I just want to speak to that for a moment. I was just listening to a wonderful astrology reading about the coming month of February and how women in particular will be feeling more empowered in their gifts and talents and be able to step forward and feel a confidence that we have not experienced in our lifetime. And what a beautiful time to form a group and support one another, particularly among women. So with that invitation, I want to introduce you to my wise colleagues that are here. And we'll be sharing a little bit of the different perspectives that you might want to consider when you're putting together your group. So I'm going to start out with Lois. Lois is joining us from Canada on this call. And Lois is a developmental coach. She's been working with us in the world of Gemmos for a number of years. has worked with mentoring Gemmo practitioners and is here today to assist you in what you might want to consider as you put that group together. Lois, thanks so much.
Great. It's good to be here with you all. The I was thinking today you brought up the astrology aspect, and that Christine and Lauren and I have been working on this so the sun transits, and I was journaling in my calendar, and it's right now that the gate we're in is about sensitivity to other people's what's going on for them, and I thought, well, isn't that just a perfect day for me to be talking about this? Because like you talked about the kind of groups that you could be forming here, Lauren, and it's like, even if it is a family group, a group of people that you know really well, you don't know their sensitivities around how they are with their health. Very, very different ideas about it. But that doesn't mean that you can't be supportive of each other. And so in this like forming of groups is getting to know who's in the group and why are they here? Like I think an initial thing is like if you come into a course, there's a why you're here, right? And so as instructors, we need to form a safe space where people can be vulnerable, they can talk about what's going on so that their learning can go deeper. But if you go and you form a group that we're just getting together because we have sort of a common need or common desire to help each other, you need to know why everybody's come to this group because you could be there, you could be 10 of you, and you could be there for 10 different reasons. So having some knowledge of why everyone else is there and them knowing why you're there is hugely important. It's because then it gives you some idea of where their boundaries are. I mean, what are they looking for? And they know what you're looking for. But the like with this idea of sensitivity to other people's needs, and say we've looked back like with the flu and it made me think of COVID, is we get in situations where people have dramatically different ideas about what is the right way to go. And there's that, can we continue to support each other, or does this group need to be a group of people that are like-minded? And so getting a sense of where people are at and how they feel about that is extremely important. Because if you have people that need similar like-mindedness, then that's the kind of group that should be better. Or if it's a group of people that wants to be open to a whole bunch of an array of perspectives, that's good to know. And if you all agree on that, you're in a good place to start. The As a coach, one of the prime things, like I'm working with an individual or a group, is the safety, to create a safe container for the activity to happen. And so that, especially when you've got somebody coming in and they don't really know, and if you're forming a group, you all don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know what this is like. So there's could be some apprehensiveness about what this is going to be like. So there's like, how do you create or begin to start a safe container for everybody to come together and feel like they can share and not be judged. And one of the ways that I've learned to do that is basically by having a kind of contract. And that contract, it speaks to how are we going to treat each other? Are we going to treat each other with respect? Are we going to treat each other in non-judgmental ways? But that's for the group to talk about what really matters here to us. you know I mean, because like there could be a group that wants to take things very seriously, and so someone that wants to joke around and have a little fun might not fit in that group. And so ascertaining what is going to work here, uh, and making sure that people feel like they fit in the space and can be with what is going to arise, because they need to be able to talk about what's going on for them. and not feel that there's going to be like you shouldn't be thinking that or you shouldn't be saying that. So going around and asking people, what do you need to feel safe in a group? And it can be like and so, like tracking it, like having a poster board and writing down, these are the things that we need to feel safe in this group. And then everyone else in the group knows or has at least some idea what the sensitivities in the group are. So some people like could say that like I'm very touchy if anybody tries to tell me what to do. So I need nobody trying to tell me what to do. I'm open to your opinions, but and or it could be the total opposite. I want you to tell me what to do, which it's like then uh like sort of where the parameters are and where you're can not actively not be stepping over a space. I mean, there's always times that we'll accidentally do that with people, but this allows the intention of the group to be for the safety and allow the vulnerability of the group so that you can come together and you can share. And then beyond that, I think there's a recognition that a lot of groups seem to hinge around one individual or two people. And this is something that I've noticed that there seems to be need to be like a core. And then there's other people that are they're very much part of the group, but they're not leading the group. So it's like, how do I be a leader without like setting out the path? It's like, so if because there are people when you get in a group that stand out as they're the leaders for whatever, I don't know if we have it tattooed on our foreheads or just what, but you see it happen is that someone shows up and everybody just assumes that they're the leader. And so if that is your role, is to take that responsibility, um, take it seriously and hold it lightly at the same time, because you want to make it so everyone else can engage and you don't wind up being the one saying, well, this is what we're doing and that's what you should do, and handing out the advice all the time. And handing out advice is another thing. There's a difference between giving advice and giving your opinion. So if you're going around and someone has something coming up and everyone in the group has an opportunity to say, if I were you, this is what I would do, that's wonderful, but there's no pressure for that person to have to take on any of those specific ideas. It's there for them to choose what they want to take away and feel supported. So maybe you've all been with me on this exercise. Is there anything else you want to add from your experience of this? Nothing to add to what do we do for a group?
Well, I love, I love keeping, minding our words or thinking about, am I giving advice or am I telling somebody to do or I'm offering an opinion or I'm sharing what works for me. And you can just make a note to self, like most of us want to be helpful, right? And we want to get maybe right in there. But just remembering a few key statements like, oh, this is what worked for me. What do you think might work for you? Or what do you think you might want to try, so that it puts the ownership back in theirs, but it gave a little help too, just having a few of those kinds of phrases in your mind to tame the people who are extra enthusiastic, like that can be me.
I love that, Tanya. I was in a dream group once, and that can get really tricky, people interpreting each one another's dreams. And so there was an agreement in the group that once the person shared their dream, that you would start your comment by saying, if this was my dream, I would da 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 da. And I found that to be so freeing. And the minute someone slipped, you could feel the energy shift, like, whoops, don't go there.
Yeah.
Well, I think this touches on something we talk about a lot in the coherence lab too, right? This idea that we are all experts in ourselves, right? Like we are probably more than anybody else. We know ourselves better or should and have the possibility, right? And so whenever we walk into these spaces, these group spaces, I think it is a place where we have the opportunity to say, hey, look, we're all coming together as equals, right? We all bring things to bear here that are important. And some of us may have more knowledge in one area or another, but just like holding that space that everybody comes with equal ability, which isn't always how we do things like healthcare, especially, right? We are kind of trained to go to the doctor who has the answers, right? And that is a different kind of energy. And so I think that's also something really important when we're forming groups, like to keep each other aware of this aspect, right? Like none of us holds all the truth. We all have pieces of it, and we all have lots to offer, and none of us have, answers for another always, right?
Yeah, I want to share, yes, my thoughts that first, Lois, thank you for your idea of safety. I guess it's one of the main ideas like every group would like to have, yeah. But my experience is much broader. Like I had experience with being in a group of equal people who were just students of Lauren at that point of time. And also, I had my own Ukrainian groups where I am feeling myself like a leader, and it's a bit different. And then I can share with them my rules and some specific conditions, yeah, that I'm going, yes, to provide there. And it's always a bit draining, especially when people are vulnerable, and Ukrainians are in this condition right now. So it's always so resourceful for the leader to be in this position. So um, I guess when someone decides to open with a group, first he or she has to understand the purpose and whether he is or she is a leader of the group, or this is a group of equal people who are sharing their ideas and so on. And it can work both ways.
Yeah. We could say, I think what's coming out and just in listening to all of you is like our intention has always been to encourage people to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. And so this is like, as a group, supporting each other to be able to do that. It's like we're giving you the support, but we want you to be, I mean, your tagline, Lauren, is I believe you're your own healer. And I believe that as well, but we all need support in that healing. So how do we do that for each other and not take responsibility for what's not ours? And I think that's in the group is a major thing, is I needing to know what's mine and what isn't mine. And then it's not just in the group. I think it's everywhere in life that we need to be thinking about that, because like you said, Lena, there's that draining aspect of it. And if we're taking on more than is ours, or we're doing all of the work, and like if I'm working with a client and I'm doing more work than the client, something's wrong. And so I'd say within the group, if somebody's doing or carrying most of the load, something's wrong. And that, I guess, then also there needs to be an avenue to talk about how, if this isn't going well for us, do we have an opportunity to talk about it and shift it so that it doesn't just fall apart? Yeah.
That sounds like a perfect segue into Christine's sharing. And Christine, you're joining us today, like you have many times with the human design hat. And there are some real mechanical things, and I can hear it flipping as Lois is talking. So I'm real curious what you're going to tap into for us.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's true. As I was listening to Lois, I was really thinking about this from the mechanical lens that human design offers us. And so, one of the things I think is really important is to recognize that, human design teaches us is that we each have our own individual energy, right? We are energetic, electric beings, essentially, right? We have an aura, we have an energetic aura that impacts the world around us. And other people, of course, have these auras too. They impact us, right? And so mechanically, we know this. When we are alone, we are one way. When we're with one other person, we have a different kind of way of showing up. And then when we are in small groups, up to 5 or 6 people in human design, we call that a penta, right? That is a specific energetic thing that happens. And I think what's really interesting is I think in a lot of ways in the modern world, we have lost touch and practice with penta energy, right? We are not in enough small groups on a regular basis in a way to really fully work with that energy because it's a powerful energy, right? We each bring our individual knowing, and then together it creates this separate and energy that we can't create in any other way. And so I think it's a really powerful way that humans are literally designed to connect. And this thing that you're trying to do here is tapping into that, right? I think about that. I think it's Francis Weller's quote that says, it's the solitary path that we cannot do alone, right? And so it speaks to what Lois was saying earlier, right? Like we require the support of other beings. And in support, we are actually experiencing a different aspect of our own energy and the energy of the other and the energy of the group, right? And we know often when the group energy is off too, right? Like this is something we feel. And so being open in our group making to this possibility that the group we're trying to form gets off in some way, right? And being able to have those conversations of like, I get it, we're all here, we're all trying to do this thing, and yet something isn't quite gelling, right? And I think what's so lovely about human design is that it offers this dispassionate lens, right? Like nobody's doing anything wrong. Nobody's trying to make things hard, right? It's just the physical energetics between us somehow are just not quite hitting correctly, right? And so it's a nice way to call out the thing that everybody's probably feeling, right? And to maybe have a real discussion, like we all believe this thing, we all want to do this work together, and yet something's not quite right. What, do we have any options, any solutions, any possible, experiments we can run to move this forward in a way that benefits us all? So that's what comes up for me. I'm not sure if that lights anything up for any of you, but that's what I'll offer for now.
Christine, I have a question. I think you were leaning into that, but everyone's been in a group where things start feeling, a little crunchy. Is there, I was going to say a human design trick. That probably isn't the right word, but to open that up or through human design, or maybe Lois through your developmental coaching idea, maybe there's a question that needs to be asked.
I mean, there's really only one human design trick, and that's just awareness, right? Like, truly, it's just like noticing it, and then again, creating the space where I think Lois talked about this creating the space where it can be brought up and looked at, right? And looked at without any preconceived expectation that it's actually going to be solved, right? Like this is, I think, where so much of our group work has gone astray in this, time that we live in, is the minute we hit something that doesn't work perfectly for everyone, people are like, well, whatever, we'll just dissolve it, we'll just throw it away, right? We can't, right? We don't have to do this, right? And it's true, we've been really living in a world where we often didn't have to work together, we could walk away. But I'm not sure that's where we're going in this, near future. And it's a real skill that humans need to work through stickiness, to work through conflict, to lead with love and to recognize that everybody's doing the absolute best they can, even if it isn't actually meeting the need of the moment, right?
I think too, that gives an opportunity to be more objective about what's happening, because this is happening because this is the way our systems are developed. And yes, we can be open to how we interact with each other, but we might be interacting and meshing perfectly. Like certain people sort of light each other up, and other people sort of shut each other down. But in this, like the idea in like the four agreements of not taking things personally is like, so if we can be objective about this and say, well, there's a real cause here, and it isn't because I'm not wanting to get along with you, and then I can be less personal, take it less personally, and my feelings hurt, which sort of helps to take the emotionality and the drama out of the situation.
Mm.
Great place to practice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Thank you. Thanks, Lois. Thanks, Christine. So we're going to move on, Tanya, to you. And Tanya has supported our community over the many years in so many different ways, with bringing your wisdom from your many years as a health coach and homeopath and gemmotherapist. And I think you bring so many life skills into this arena. I'm curious what you have today to share about groups.
Okay, so what I would say is I love group work, and I find it to be very enriching. As Christine mentioned, there is something about the group that you can't get on your own. And so, yeah, there are challenges. Sure, there are challenges, but there are challenges when you're on your own too. And I've belonged to many different groups. I've started groups, I've led groups, I've done lots of that over the years. And um, how to start? So you might be thinking, like, how am I going to find all those people or whatever? First of all, your group can be two people, you and somebody else, or it could be five people. 10 people is getting a little bit big for this kind of work, but maybe it'll work just fine, and maybe you'll have two groups. Who knows? But um, start by just opening your eyes and looking around for maybe like-minded people. And it doesn't mean that probably the people that you're looking for don't even know what Gemmo extracts are. And so you're not going around beating the bushes and saying, do you want to do Gemmo extracts with me? It might look more like, hey, I noticed that you're really into clean living and holistic health or that kind of thing. And I know this neat modality. I'm getting to learn it better, but I'm just starting. And it's plant medicine. It's a specific kind of plant medicine. It's this Gemmo extracts, and I'd love to share a little bit with you about that. So, as opposed to even, you might just say plant medicine and then go on to what a Gemmo extract really is. Um, it may be somebody who has, they have a health challenge and they've tried everything. And you might want to just offer, say, I've gotten stuck in these places too, and I'm trying this new thing that's very promising. Maybe you would be interested. Um, Maybe you're in contact with someone who's hit rock bottom and they're ready to open up. That might be somebody who would be interested. You can just have open eyes and open ears and listen for people who may be interested, but you can also be that beacon. You can just share in casual conversation of, like, what did you do this week, Tanya? Like, oh, I had a really bad cold, but it was so exciting because I'm learning these Gemmo extracts, and it was helping me move through my cold faster. And just share your enthusiasm and your excitement, and you'll find people that want to know more. Um, and when that happens, and they nibble at that, maybe you can invite them to an introductory gathering. So as opposed to, many people are reluctant to commit. Like, I don't want to promise, I don't want to sign up, I don't want to be responsible, all of that. But if you just invite them to a tea, invite them to a little picnic. If you're not doing that, invite them, get together on Zoom, just for a discussion and do a little introduction. And you can put out there that this is not going to be expert led, but I have a book written by an expert and a lot of people who've worked through this together. So, and it's safe. You can talk about the safety issues, that kind of thing. So you'll find people anywhere. They'll be in parent groups, they'll be maybe you're on a sports team, maybe you belong to a music group, a workplace, food co-op or that kind of thing that you can put up a notice if you want to. But really any place that there are people, there's going to be a health need and a want for something different. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have, you might be feeling like, oh, I don't belong to any holistic groups, or I don't have time for that. But it if you're human, you have a need. So so it really can be anywhere. Um, and I have a couple other suggestions too, but I just want to pause there for a second and just ask the group if there are places that they found were easy, or ways that they found that were easy to attract people in. Does anything come to mind for anybody of where you found like-minded people, or some way that you were able to excite somebody about being in a group when they didn't know they were excited about it?
Well, this is just my energy. I have this stranger of consequence energy, so I can just talk to somebody randomly in a coffee shop line and about something. The trick is that it has to be authentic to us, right? This is true for everyone, right? If you're authentically sharing something that really has helped you, or that that really is something that speaks to you with zero expectation of anybody else caring, that's really effective communication usually.
Yeah, no, 100% I would agree. Yeah. Yep, if it comes through with that authenticness and there's excitement around it, people want to hear more.
Well, I was thinking it was like being around somebody who's just totally enthused. And it could be something that you've gone like, why would anybody even be interested in that? And their enthusiasm, this has probably got something to do with human design, Christine, is like you get infused with their enthusiasm. And that draws you into going, well, actually, there might be something here. And I've always found it fascinating to be in that space with people. And I know that it's like what the motivational speakers and that they all use that sort of an idea. It's just like in it they get everybody ramped up and engaged in a way. And it's something that I have very little skill at, but I find it quite admirable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that enthusiasm bridge kind of place too can be, if you're extending the conversation, really this is all about having a conversation, right? And seeing where it goes. Asking them, if you have an inkling that they've been stuck, or they have some other ideas, asking them, well, what works for you? What have you found that works for you? And maybe you get to that place of, and what could we do differently or learn together, that would develop that skill set, so that's exciting. Um, I made a little handout that Lauren might be able to make available to people that has ideas about starting groups and what that first meeting might look like. Because a lot of times I know people say, okay, now maybe I have a couple interested people, but like, what do we even say? Where do I start? I'm not even sure where to go. So just starting with questions like, how is this plant extract the same or different than other things you've used? And what other things do you do at home that you find supportive? because everybody does something like, oh, I have a special soup that I make, or I know that I have a special place that I lie down and put my feet up, and you can play off of that, and people will have a sense of that they're contributing, right? You want to find an easy on ramp where they also are like, oh, I'm a contributor, like I have something to offer here too. Um, is a nice way also to keep you out of the I know everything, I'm the expert in this group. And putting right out there that this isn't going to be expert led, but we'll learn together, and that does accelerate your learning because fortunately we don't have colds and flus every week. But during the wintertime, we might know somebody every week or two that does. And if we can watch their patterns and think about what extracts might be helping or could help and walk them through and see, you will accelerate your learning tremendously through the group work. Um, and and as Christine mentioned, people come in, and Lois touched on this too. People come in with different lenses, right? And different things to offer. And you can partake in all of that if you're in a group. But if you're by yourself, things get really slowed, bogged down, is my experience. I mean, there are a few individuals that just charge through and have good loner energy like that, but not many of us. Um, yeah, so and there, beyond the book, there's the website, what Lauren's recordings, that kind of thing that can be very supportive. But I do have some group questions and some group ideas and things that you might play off of.
Great. Thanks, Tanya. That's super helpful. And how about you, Lena?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's like a challenge for me now to form a real group, offline group, because I have this language barrier here in France, being in France, and I have just few Ukrainians, and well, only one of them is interested in Gemmo extracts. So it's something I really miss because like real people are always better than Zoom, but. Actually, I would like to share, yes, my experience of the group when we were studying in Lauren's program. It was like the first group of, well, Gemmo consultants internship, yeah, how we called it. And it was like 2019, I guess. So quite a long period ago, but it was something spontaneous that happened to us. I don't remember whose idea it was to create this group, and there were four of us, and so we decided to make like private chat, and Lauren wasn't part of it, and so yes, we were all equal, and that was really very great, and it was something unusual for me at that point of life. Now I think I miss a lot, and I even sometimes regrets that this group ended. But as I guess Lois said, it's always happens. Yeah, something. Sometimes it's just the energy is gone. So yeah, but it was more than just a chat for us. It was a more group of support and some guidance as well. So we were all starting our Gemmo consultations at that point, and we were not enough confident in ourselves. So the main purpose of that group was to support each other and to broaden our vision of the cases, for example. So each of us could bring to the group his case, uh, his own, her own case, or the case of the patient, of the client, and we all could give advices and suggest something, and it gave so much support, and it was so easygoing. It wasn't something like obligatory, we all wanted to share. So the energy was really amazing there. And uh, beyond the professional side, like we cheered each other on and offered support and shared some family issues as well. So there were many jokes between us. So yes, it was something like really collaborative process that I would like to experience once again. And the groups that I'm holding for Ukrainians, they are much different. Like there, I feel more like expert, and it's something really very different. Another role I'm playing there. Yeah.
Lena, listening to you speak about this group within the mentorship program makes me realize how far away we've gotten away from women supporting one another just on equal terms. I mean, I don't think we have to go back more than another generation or two where women in the neighborhood took care of each other, and someone was sick and they brought over soup, or they watched their kids, or and they knew what was happening with one another. I know we're not there anymore. I mean, wouldn't it be beautiful if this could start bringing that back in small ways, and we could start learning what it takes to be with other and get move aside from conflicting ideas. And I think it started when you were speaking, Lois. I was thinking about that quote that ideas divide and needs unite, and that's just what we're talking about here. And Lena, you gave such a beautiful example of that.
Yeah, you said that we are not more in that place in that times, but we are still in need of this so much
Yeah,
and more, I guess, than ever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
another aspect that I wanted to speak about, it's if we are talking about this acute support, there always a stage when we are not quite sure in ourselves, and the third stage, for example, it's always difficult to understand it when you are inside of the situation. So this is one of the main purpose. It could be one of the main purpose of this Gemmo group, to give this support in this case when you don't need to go to the consultant or to the practitioner, but you can join one of the groups and have this support when you need.
Thanks, Lena. What else is coming up as we made our way around the group? What else needs to be shared?
I think what's coming up for me is we're talking about forming around Gemmo groups and around specific concerns. Is that there's also a much broader application of this, because you've alluded to the moving forward is, I think it's going to be in small groups where things happen. I mean, you look all over the world, and there's in places there's small groups of people doing amazing things in spite of whatever else is going on around us. And I think that is the future. It isn't going to come from our federal governments or anything like that. It's going to come from us personally. So learning to be in community, and this is a way to be in community. So it's I think it's an important thing we're talking about here.
Christine, Tanya, anything else from you?
Well, I just want to, one thing that Lena said that made me realize this is something I've been doing too. I've been taking human design classes. They're all online, of course. And in each one, it's actually been me in many cases where I have pushed to have small group study groups form. right? And I have always had a small study group outside of any larger classroom, and I just think that that frame of a study group, like, a practitioner group can seem a bit heavy, like, oh my gosh, I actually have to have clients and I have to have people and I have to be doing practitioner work, right? But if you're just forming a group in order to study something more deeply and in community in smaller groups, it's a really effective, it's just an effective model, right? Like, you learn so much more when you're seeing 5 cases that 4 other people are bringing in, right? Than you could possibly do, on your own by yourself. And so I'm just offering up this idea of maybe it isn't like a practitioner group, maybe it is just a study group where you're just trying to learn a little bit more about something you're really curious and passionate about.
Oh, yes, Christine. I mean, that is the whole idea. No one needs to be a practitioner here. Yeah. Tanya, what about you in closing?
I think I've shared what I wanted to share, and I will absolutely, I said it before, and I'll back up what Christine said is that you will see and learn things that you would never do on your own. You will go so much deeper, and there's no reason to be intimidated by it, really. I mean, your group could be 2 people. Really great if it could be 3. Um, but you'll find it if you just keep it open eyes, open ears, and people are out there looking and curious and wanting. So, and Lois had said at the beginning, that I have different groups. So I have, your local group can be a combination, um, local group that you're meeting, actually physically, and then it could also be, and part of that could be a WhatsApp group or a Signal group or a Telegraph group, whatever. Um, so you can get on there quick and say, "Hey, I've got a cold. This is what's going on." And you certainly don't have to have the idea that, like, oh, someone's got a cold, now we have to all meet. So you'll find a way to meet by messaging somehow.
Great, great. Well, thank you. Thank you all so very much. Oksana, we have you here live. We're going to put you on the spot if you don't mind. And hopefully you have a question or two for these ladies.
Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question, because I also have experience with having a different part of groups, and I just got idea what kind of group I need now. Thank you for study group for this idea, because I have been part of a women's circle. We started during the COVID, so we have been random 5 ladies from different parts. We ended up being 4 of us, but each week we make a call during certain time. We discuss all kind of problems, because we know that in this group we could share everything. That was everything about our struggles during the COVID, staying with kids, and a lot of about our husbands. But we know that this rule that says that group stays in group, because it was record. And I need this part now in any kind of group, because I'm overwhelmed. Everything you're not feeling safe enough to be in a group when you write messages, because I don't know why, but sometimes as soon as I took leadership, I feel drained after that. And I couldn't provide it the whole time. So maybe it's a question to how I could avoid it. Maybe it's also connected because I'm Ukrainian, and now all Ukrainians are quite drained, if it's possible to say. So the question, how to make the group to really feeling equal. It's a great idea to have some kind of rules, and also ask about what kind of needs do we have. Because during the COVID, that was women's circle, we just need to talk. We just need a personal psychologist, group psychologist session, because that was talk about everything. But that was such a synergy of a group that we solve tiny, we got so much ideas, but our strugglings became a little problem after that. And of course, in my study group, I also would like to have this type of group, because I use the group that Elena made for Ukrainians, but there are so much people. And when I read about somebody's problem, I'm really in that problem already. Even if I know that Elena leads this group, but I find myself too sensitive. So maybe you have some kind of advice and tricks how I could avoid this involvement. This is the first question.
Yeah.
I think I'll try this one. It's something that we talk about in this group a lot, is the looking at what's the difference between caregiving and caretaking. And if I'm giving care to someone, I'm supporting them and I'm encouraging them to be on their path. I'm not taking responsibility. I'm not taking responsibility away from them, and I'm not taking away their opportunity to learn and grow from their own experiences. If I'm caretaking, I'm in and I'm the one that knows what's supposed to happen. Now the responsibilities, or I think all of the responsibility is all on me, even if the other person doesn't want that. And that's where it gets draining, right? It's to go back to this, what's mine and what is not. And to have boundaries around that is to say, I recognize that this is for you, to learn. Maybe you need to make these mistakes, and I just need to be here to hold your hand afterwards. And so it's like just to look back and say, am I impeding here? Am I trying to, control things and make things right for this person, when really I need to let them have their own experience? And I think if you take back and just look through those two lenses and say, what am I doing here? And if you're falling into the caretaking, unless a person is totally helpless, like they've just had surgery, then maybe I need to think about doing this differently and let them take more of a part in this. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Because it's a part of my personal growth, I guess, because usually if I feel a little bit an expert in this field, I became like, you say, caretaken too much. There's no opportunity for person to go their own path. Thank you.
Yeah, I have just a practical, that's very practical, Lois. It was not impractical, but I just have a practical, like structural thing that I think helps in these study groups, and that is to set the expectation that everybody leads a session in some way, right? Like everybody shares a little thing that they know for 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of the class, and just every time you meet, somebody else kind of leads the group in that way. I think that energetically makes people recognize that it's a shared responsibility and not one person's responsibility to hold the space. So that's just a thing that's worked in our little study groups that I've been part of.
And I would like to add something that I like to remind myself of. Sometimes when I see somebody doing something, I'm like, oh no, they need to do it this way, or remind myself ask myself, how do I know that? And oftentimes the answer is because I made that mistake. That's why I know that. And so when we see what we label mistakes or mishaps or things went wrong or whatever, those are that's part of the experiment, and that's a beautiful part of the experiment and an opportunity for great growth. And so reframing, when things don't go ideally or perfectly or the way we want them, not seeing those as failures, seeing those as wonderful opportunities for growth. And some of the richest learning comes from that. Exactly.
Yeah, it's all about collective wisdom. So the group is formed for this purpose, to get this collective wisdom, I guess.
Yeah, and the growth comes on many levels, right? It's just not subject matter, it's emotional, it's spiritual.
And for everyone.
For everyone. Exactly, Lena.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oksana, does that take care for you? And do you have a follow-up question before we close?
Actually, I guess it's all. I have a question about study groups. Is this any kind of information you shared in a hat? For example, you could choose this or this theme, and people make their own thoughts about it, or do we have a similar subjects to study before, or a different one to share after that?
I'm not sure I understood that. Does someone else understand it that wants to jump in?
Sorry. Sorry. When I became too excited, my dyslexia make it worse. For example, you have a study group, and before you start your session, is it possible to give some kind of material in a hat that you study about this one, you study about this one, and after that we have the small discussion, or we share our experience and could discuss it. So the form of is matter or it doesn't matter?
Oksana, I hope everyone would be right behind me on this. This is your choice. It's your group, and no one's here to dictate. The study group about acute colds, flus, and viruses is designed to be a support group. And so the best material you have is whatever anyone experienced last. The last cold, flu, or virus.
In your real life.
Yeah, you've got real life material right there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this season each week.
Yeah,
Yes.
fortunately, exactly. But it's very interesting to unwind your experiences, and using the book, you can go through, and there's places for reflection in the book. So, and I think what we can do is, if we have folks that are abroad, and getting the book is a challenge, we can get PDF copies for folks, so we can make sure that happens. Good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. I found so much helpful for me, for myself, and I got a lot of ideas. Thanks.
Wonderful. That's what the best we can do, is ignite your curiosity and interest to go out and do something yourself. So I hope we do that for each and every person that listens to this, that we inspire you to gather a small group and begin caring for one another in all the ways. And I want to thank Lois and Christine and Tanya and Lena for taking your time out and joining me here and making this such a beautiful offering for folks. Thank you so much.